Tracy received her BA from Wheaton College and MS from Antioch University. She lives in Orange, New Hampshire, where she serves on the Orange Conservation Commission. When not working, she's an avid reader, home improvement DIYer, loves to hike, bike, kayak, and snowshoe. And she was very nice to rearrange her schedule because I mistakenly invited her weeks ago to speak on March 2nd, and today is March 3rd. So she went to Zoom yesterday and didn't see anybody there, and she was able to change her schedule so she could join us. And Tracy, for that, I thank you greatly. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Todd. And I was happy to do so. I didn't want to leave you all hanging. But thank you very much for having me back as well. It was interesting, though, and somewhat ironic if this had happened yesterday, because the way you billed me was how the pandemic is affecting Upper Valley business. And if you turned on the news yesterday, you know that yesterday was the 1-year anniversary of COVID affecting us here in New Hampshire. Not a great anniversary, unfortunately, but I found that to be somewhat ironic. What a year it has been, as we all know. And I would compare it a little bit to going through the 5 stages of grief, because just about this time last year, I think we were all in denial. We were hearing this thing called COVID. It was starting to move into different states. We had not yet shut down. In fact, on this day last year, I was planning an event for 65 people at the Montshire Museum for our Upper Valley MedTech Collaborative that we had just started. And I was having a few people call me and ask if we were still going to go forward with the event, knowing that there was this thing called COVID. And of course, as we all remember, ground zero for that, New Hampshire, was right here in Hanover and in our backyard. Sometime over the summer and early spring of last year, I think we moved into the angry phase where we had people, we were told we had to wear masks. We had people who didn't want to wear masks. That was certainly an issue for a lot of our Upper Valley businesses, particularly our retailers and our restaurants, who suddenly had people coming in who refused to wear masks, and they had to figure out how to deal with those people. And in fact, Vital Communities and UVBA, we even discussed holding a de-escalation workshop for our businesses to learn how to effectively work with those people who refuse to follow the protocols. I would say depression followed as well, as we figured out that this was not only going to be a few months, and here we are a year later still dealing with it. And now we're in some sort of strange, weird acceptance where we have hope, the vaccines are coming, and things are looking up. But it is a year later, and we're still dealing with this, and we've seen, and the businesses have had to deal with it as well. One piece of hope that we do have this morning, I was actually on a call with Taylor Caswell. He's the Commissioner of New Hampshire's Business and Economic Affairs, who announced to those of us on the call that our January unemployment rate was down to 3.6%. And in April of last year, we hit our high, which was 16%. So here we are 1 year later. We are almost down to what we were pre-COVID for our unemployment rate. And the Upper Valley tends to be consistently about a point lower than the state's average. And in fact, we have businesses right now that workforce was a huge issue for them before COVID, and trying to find enough talent is an issue for them now. Our businesses, we still don't seem to have enough workers to fill all the jobs that are available. And that's a good thing at this point. So 1 year ago, when the governor issued those stay-at-home orders, I know I was sitting here watching him on the television, and I'm sure like many of you, the only thing I was picturing was boarded up storefronts. And we did have quite a few businesses that did close, but frankly, we didn't have as many as I was afraid that would. We've actually weathered this fairly well in terms of the resilience of our businesses. Um, we we had several businesses that closed for some reasons and not others. In some cases, it wasn't so much that of the economy or people not coming in. It was the other issues that we've all been dealing with, which our children are in some cases are going to school remotely. People had to stay home to take care of their children. They were not able to work. And that has all been an issue for businesses as well. And one of the businesses that we had closed, that was their case, is they were still having the business. People were still coming in and purchasing the items, but they just couldn't manage the home and work balance at this point. It's just been tough, particularly for those who have young families. It's been a really difficult time for everyone to try to manage that. Over the summer, I was able to participate in a conference with other chamber leaders, and our speaker was Russ Tibu of Applied Economic Research. If you turn on WMUR or watch their business features, Russ is often featured as one of the state's economists. And when Russ was speaking to us, he was talking about how the curve of this recession is so much different than what the typical recession curve is. Usually, he said, there's a U-shaped or a V-shaped curve. The U-shaped curve is, of course, you have your sort of gradual downturn, a flattening out, and then a gradual upturn. Or the V-shaped is you have that catastrophic straight to the bottom, hits the bottom, and then goes back up. Russ described this downturn as a K, and he was somewhat dumbfounded by that, even as he told it to us. But the K is exactly what we were seeing here in the Upper Valley as well. The K, of course, you have one arm that's going up and another one that's going down. And that describes how some of our businesses have weathered this pandemic as well. I have had numerous of our business members say to me that last year was one of their best years ever. And it all depends on the kind of industry that they were in. Anything having to do with home improvement, outdoor recreation, those businesses actually had a very good year. And then, of course, we had the businesses that had a really bad year. And those are the ones in hospitality, in our hotels, our restaurants. Our retailers, many of them started off just being devastated. And then a lot of them saw a swing back up in the summer and the fall, because we had a lot of people from other parts that were coming here and renting homes or staying longer for vacations, or finding that they could work remotely. And so they were here and they wanted to shop. And so some of our retailers found that their year didn't turn out to be as bad as they thought it was going to be, which was very encouraging. Christmas, of course, it was off. We're all facing a little bit of an issue with consumer confidence. People don't necessarily want to be in a restaurant right now and eating out or shopping, and so many people are avoiding those public places. But fortunately, in the Upper Valley, we have a very strong shop local and support local contingent, and that has been crucial for our businesses, absolutely crucial. The real estate market, of course, we know has been going gangbusters, just incredibly busy. And other services such as insurance and financial services seems to, they've been doing okay as well. A lot of our businesses have figured out how to do this remotely, and it's been encouraging. I have been amazed at the resilience of some of our businesses. I really have. Um, we've had members, some of our members don't even have a website still. Uh, we have a lot of businesses that are very small that just never wanted to invest in going digital in any way. And over the last year, I have seen some of those businesses not only embrace it, but figure out a whole new way of doing business and opening up new markets for them. One of our painting businesses figured out that they could do estimates over FaceTime and has found that it's even expanded their business because they're taking the travel time and trying to schedule with a client when they can come out and do an estimate. And they have found that they can be almost as effective doing this remotely and doing an estimate, and they're getting the jobs, and they have been extremely busy. We've had other members who have teamed up with each other. Competing businesses like Boloco and Lou's Restaurant teamed up together to offer meals for frontline workers. And out of that, they have come up with a whole new model for doing local delivery, which they're going to be launching in the next couple of weeks, called Uber. So out of the ashes, a lot of good things have come, and that has been uh, just, when you think back of what this day a year ago and what we were looking at and the unknown, where we have all come has just been phenomenal. It truly has. We're also seeing a lot of new investment right now. And if you talk to some of our commercial lenders, you talk to the people at Grafton Regional Development Corp, or this morning, Taylor Caswell at the state, we're seeing interest in people opening new businesses and new entrepreneurs who they may have lost their jobs, or they may have decided that they're going to make a change, or they had plans to open a business and decided not to let COVID dictate whether they should or not, and they have moved forward. And so we're seeing a lot of new businesses. Hanover is seeing some new restaurants open and some new retailers that are coming in. And that's also a trend statewide. Taylor Caswell also talked about industry and people that are looking to move companies to New Hampshire. And on 12A in West Lebanon, we have seen the sales of some big purchases and some large buildings. So investment is still there, and it is still happening. So it seems like we are well positioned to come out of this and come back. But again, COVID did shine a light on some areas where we've been deficient as well. I already mentioned childcare. That was a problem for our Upper Valley families before COVID. Anecdotally, I know of people who were thinking of starting families, and almost as soon as they became pregnant, they were looking for a child care provider because they're very few and far between. We do have a lack of affordable quality child care in this area, and COVID has just made that problem worse. So certainly that's an area that we all need to be working on and thinking of. Broadband. is another big issue. If you're in downtown Hanover or downtown Lebanon, we have pretty consistent broadband, although I can tell you that here in Lebanon, about 3 o'clock every day, things just fall right apart. And if you're trying to upload something or download something, it's going to take you longer. So I think, we could use a little bit more consistency. But certainly with all of us now online, doing meetings online, conducting business online, our kids schooling online, there's a lot of areas right around us in the outskirts of Hanover, of Lebanon, that do not have broadband. And we know now that it's more important than ever. And that is certainly an issue that hopefully we can address in the near future. So UVBA is looking to try to figure out what's next now. Where do we go from here? We know that vaccinations are rolling out. We know that things are getting better. The economy is coming back. But I can tell you, though, there's a lot of talk about a new relief package coming from Washington. We don't know what it's going to look like yet. It hasn't come out. And there's some discussion as to, well, do we need it? Have we made it through the worst? Will it just cause our national debt to be that much higher? Well, I can tell you, and not to be political, but I still have businesses that are calling me saying, what else can I apply for? I'm hanging on by my fingernails. So as much as some businesses are doing okay, we still have quite a few that are having issues. Yoga studios, gyms, places where, their whole business is really focused on being in person. Those businesses are still having a lot of problems and could certainly use some more relief if it was available. And finally, I want to talk to you about a pressing issue that has come out this year, speaking of budgets. And that is the Governor Sununu a few weeks ago announced his budget. And pretty much across the board, he asked all of the state departments to trim their budget by 20%. And the Business and Economic Affairs did that. But one of the line items that they cut was funding for the Small Business Development Center. If you're not familiar with the Small Business Development Center, every state has the SBDC. They are funded in part by the Small Business Administration, and then they are also funded with monies from the state and the university system. And in order to receive full funding, they need to have all of those components. So it's like a matching grant. So in order to get the full funding from the SBA, they have to have the funding from the state to be the matching grant. And that was cut completely out of the budget from New Hampshire. I truly feel that that is going to not serve our businesses or the people of New Hampshire. And the reason is the SBDC has been an anchor for many businesses. These are the people that provide free counseling for entrepreneurs or for business people. I can't tell you how many of our local businesses have contacted me and said, I need help with marketing or business finance or, advice on where to take my business next. And the people I refer them to is the Small Business Development Center. And as of right now, New Hampshire will be the only state without a Small Business Development Center. So if that worries you as much as it does me, you can contact your state rep and let them know. And I hope that you will, because I think that that would be a shame. That's doing a huge disservice to the entrepreneurs and our small business people all throughout our state. So I think what I'll do is I'll just open it up for questions at this point.
Great, great. Thanks, Tracy. Anyone have, it's a big crowd today. That's great. Anyone have any questions for Tracy? I have to look on both. I have to look. Go ahead, Len. I mean, sorry, Wayne.
My question is, I read recently that the unemployment numbers are artificially depressed because there are large numbers of people who just gave up because they couldn't find anything. Is that phenomenon happening in the Upper Valley, or is that more urban data point?
I think it's hard to pull the two apart, because if they've just given up, they're not being counted. But yes, I do think it's an issue. I know nationwide, one of the issues that's come out is many women have left the workforce, and mostly because of family obligations, either childcare issues with kids that are learning remotely and somebody needs to be home with them, the lack of childcare, or in some cases they're caring for elderly parents or people who have compromised immune systems and would be potentially more sorry, I just lost my train of thought, but you know what I mean. They would be more apt to contract COVID. So yes, that's absolutely an issue that is happening. It's hard to say though if it's specific to the Upper Valley, but it's definitely one that's affecting the state.
Tracy, what impact has the pandemic had on Upper Valley Business Alliance membership, your membership count?
Well, it's we've been holding strong. Last year was our first year in business, because we were, before 2020, we were the Hanover Chamber and the Lebanon Chamber. And it was in late 2019 that we put this organization together, and our official start date was January 1. We started out strong. We had a lot of support from our two memberships in putting the organization together, but quite a few of our members were not able to pay their dues. And so we financially lost about 50% of our revenue. Yeah, it was a tough year. And we weathered it. And thanks to our members that did support us, we had enough to keep going. We took some mitigation actions. My staff and I did the work share program for part of the year for a few months, which saved us a little bit of money. And we had the opportunity to get some grant funding to serve as business navigators, which allowed us to really work one-on-one with some of our businesses and help them apply for the Main Street Relief Funds or the PPP or the EIDL. And so we made it through. And this year, I'm happy to say that quite a few of our members have come back. I also want to mention that we did not drop a single member last year, even if they could not pay their membership dues. This was a crisis. Our job was to help all of our businesses, whether they were members or not members, and we did not drop a single one. We kept them on, and this year, hopefully will be a better year for all of us.
That's for sure. David Allen, go ahead. You're on mute. There we go.
Thanks, Todd. You mentioned, Tracy, that a number of businesses are facing workforce shortages. Are there specific categories of types of employees that are most needed? And are there any steps that can be taken to address those particular needs?
Well, it is pretty much across the board. I mean, I hear this from businesses, whether it's Dartmouth Hitchcock or it's, Marsh Brothers Deli. I mean, a lot of our businesses, they just cannot find enough workers. Healthcare is a huge, not just the hospital, but the Visiting Nurses Association, our assisted living. There are just not enough healthcare workers to go around. But I know that quite a few restaurants are looking for servers. Auto mechanics are looking for, those who can do auto repair. We just need more people. And what are we doing about it? The UVBA is actually investigating a couple of models. We're looking at some programs that we might be able to implement. We're partnering with other organizations as well, like Vital Communities, who has been looking into this to see what can be done. But it's an ongoing issue. We just need more people.
Lan, go ahead. You're on mute. There you go.
I recently read that the Main Street retailer Indigo switched almost completely to online sales. And can you have any predictions for us about what the impact is going to be on commercial, particularly retail space going forward in the next 5 years? If retailers like that decide to just stay online?
I think that we're not quite sure how it's going to play out. We're trying to encourage all of our retailers to have an online component, because frankly, those who did not during the pandemic found it very difficult to do business at all. And we did have quite a few retailers that did not have any digital or e-commerce component to their business whatsoever. I think though, particularly for a store in Hanover, they would be doing themselves a disservice to go fully online, particularly since they're in such a prime location. But that is going to be one of the big questions going forward, is how is the pandemic going to change the face of our downtowns? If people are not out and about and shopping, or, the daytime population of Hanover and Lebanon is much higher than the nighttime population, because so many people who come into town and work there. And if those workers are not coming in now, if they're doing more remotely, what is that going to mean for our downtown businesses? And we still don't know what that is going to look like yet.
Anyone else? I thought I saw Gary, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Tracy, I was very pleased to see that the number of unemployed has dropped to single digits. I also look every day in the Valley News and see the number of classified ads about job opportunities. Is there any way that we are missing in some way, matching those people up to jobs that are available?
Potentially. Potentially there is. One of the programs that we're looking at is how can we work with employers to collaborate amongst each other and to find ways that we can match jobs up. I can tell you though that some of our businesses have said that they're advertising for jobs, and they don't get a lot of applicants, or, there's still quite a few people who are not working, and they're not working because they're concerned about COVID or the childcare issues. So it's, I'm not sure what the easy answer is, but we do have a lot of job openings, and we have to figure out how we're going to be able to fill them, because that's one of the things that's holding some of our businesses back from growth.
Got it. Thank you.
Virginia, go ahead.
Tracy, I
Well,
can't help
Alex,
but
thank you very much.
think that
That was very,
childcare
very
is
interesting.
such a huge
All right.
problem.
You're welcome.
I mean, there are people who want to work, but they can't because they don't have childcare. What initiatives are you all looking at, or what can be done?
Well, what we did is we put together a database of all the childcare options here in the Upper Valley. We put it on our website so that it could be a reference point for HR managers, or for people who are relocating to the area, or just maybe they've lost their childcare and they need to find somebody else. So that's one thing that we did. But we, if you're a child care provider, it's not one of the highest paying jobs, as we know. And anyone who has ever needed child care, what a large chunk of your paycheck it takes to have good child care. So, it's a national issue. We really, I think as employers and as businesses, we have to take a look at it, and maybe we need better policy at the federal or the state level as well. Okay.
I was on mute because my phone was ringing. Any other questions? Jim, go ahead.
Just a footnote to that last question and comment is teachers need to be vaccinated, and why in some states they're not up there at the higher echelons is an absolute mystery to me. But if we could get the schools open and the teachers safe, then childcare in many instances becomes a non-issue.
Right, and Taylor Caswell this morning mentioned that we are moving through our first phase here in New Hampshire quickly, and then the next phase will be vaccinating teachers. So hopefully here in New Hampshire we'll be moving that along shortly.
Any other questions?
Yes, there are some people who've argued that between unemployment insurance plus the supplement from the CARES Act, that lots of people are just saying, I can make more money staying home than going to work. Do you have a sense for how effective that is in the Upper Valley?
I don't have numbers. I have heard that. And some of my businesses have said that, they have advertised and they will get people who have said, basically I'm just marking you down as, so that I can continue getting unemployment. It's hard to say exactly how many that is, but I have had a few of our members who lost their jobs. I have one of our ambassadors who had lost his job at a hotel, and he's looking for something new. And he said, but some of the jobs that are offered, they're not willing to pay me as much as what I'm making on unemployment right now. I guess it's probably a two-way street for a lot of people.
Anyone else? Okay, I think we'll go ahead, Charlie. You're on mute. Charlie, you're on mute. try pressing your space bar. If you have one.
Or lower left corner. There's a mute microphone.
You put your mouse to the lower left, you should see the microphone. And you can click on it.
What? Mine is upper, it's not on the left.
Yeah, see, it's different. It's different. Oh, there you go. You're good.
My question was, the recreational ski industry, have they suffered this year and how much? I don't seem to, I've been out very much, but I don't see many cars driving by with skis attached to the roof.
They were, it's funny, one of the people on my call this morning is Jessica Keeler, and she's with Ski New Hampshire. She has said that they're actually quite busy. And they're seeing, they're seeing a lot of people from out of state come to New Hampshire and wanting to go skiing. They were very worried what the year was going to look like, particularly because, you can't go into the lodge to go, you can't go in for lunch. You're not able, a lot of the ski areas have porta potties. Their bathrooms aren't open. You can't change in the lodge like you used to. And they were afraid that that was really going to deter business. And it seems that that's not the case, that they're actually quite busy.
Yeah, as a skier, I can tell you, I don't go to Sunapee because it's so full. All the parking lots are overflowing and it's many out of state. I shouldn't give this away, but the skiway is the best place to ski. No crowds, but
I can second that about Sunapee. My wife and I drove there last Friday, which was a gorgeous day. We pulled in the access road and realized that the outermost lot on Friday was filling up. And we did a loop through the parking lot and drove home.
Cannon is also good. It's crowded on the weekends, which I don't go skiing on the weekends anyway, but Cannon during the week is great.
Steve Burnett and I were skiing Loon on Friday, which was, again, you're right, Jim, was a gorgeous day. And surprisingly, 2 of the lifts had really long lines. I've skied a couple times at Killington this year, and the lines have not been bad at all. But you do see a lot of out-of-state plates, and supposedly these resorts are asking people to follow the state guidelines, but they're not really enforcing it because they have no way to enforce it.
Right.
No, and we saw the same thing over the summer. I mean, you may have seen reported on the news that, the trails in the White Mountains, they were having issues with the bathrooms because not many were open, and just so many people coming here because, if you're cooped up in your house in Massachusetts, what sounds better than coming up to New Hampshire and getting outside? And I mean, on one hand, we're worried about it, but on the other hand, our state functions with a lot of those tourist dollars. So
our vacation department has been very busy the last couple months, which it usually isn't. People want to get away and just get away from the cities. And so it's been good for us. I think we'll end it there, Tracy. Thank you very much. Again, thank you for your flexibility in scheduling, and I greatly appreciated the update. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to the business portion of our meeting.